Welcome to Filmmaker U. At filmmakeru.com, we bring in the top people to discuss their crafts and how they approach working in the film industry. This week we have Debra Khoo. Debra Khoo, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
It's great to meet you. You're currently in the U.S., but you weren't originally. So how did you? Where did you get your start in the industry? I guess we should start with.
Well, after graduating from RMIT in Melbourne, that was 1997 to 2000, I took up computer arts, thinking that the next step was computer graphics, CG. That time, Pixar was just starting with Luxor, and that was that little creature in Pixar that keeps
The
hopping.
lamp.
You see all that,
Yeah.
and so instead of hand drawn traditional art where you use markers and paper, computer was the next thing. So that's what I chose to study, and then right after graduating, that was 9/11 happened, and it was scary, and I came not knowing what I got myself into. I
And sorry, where'd you come from originally?
I came from Malaysia.
Hmm.
It's between Thailand and Singapore. It's pretty hot and pretty competitive, and um, currency wise, it's not as strong as most countries. Even Singapore was way stronger. So doing art and craft, like even getting Adobe softwares, Flame, Autodesk, is quite expensive field to take on.
Hmm.
And I got started my first job in a kind of big, one of the top five, I would say at that time, post production boutique called VHQ Post. They specialize in TV commercials. That time, Dunhill cigarette ads were big. And at that time, motion graphics designers did not really exist. Mostly 2D animators, 3D was picking up, but motion graphics was at its birthing stage. From then on, you learn from mounting your storyboards, Photoshop, printing it out, and then now you're starting to do style frames, and then you start to do text graphics, elements for your online compositor. That time was Henry. I don't know if that machine still exists right
I
now.
don't think so.
So that was fun. I got exposed to Flame, and I was like, why is everyone calling smoke, flame? What are all these machines? Okay, I starting to sound old as well. It's starting to give away my age. Then after 13 years, I think 2014, I migrated to the States.
So
It was
how did you make that transition? Because that's like I know a lot of people around the world who want to move to the States and
Mine was more of a personal choice. I got into a relationship, so he just so happened to live in New York. So that was also part of my dream goal, my ultimate goal to make it to New York. And everything fell into place. I couldn't even start work immediately when I got here because green card needs to be processed for, and your social security, your ID takes like 3 months. So you couldn't work for 4 months, I would say. I started
Mhm.
working just at April. I came in December 2014, and then April only I started looking for work. So
so
everyone, yeah, I'm sorry. Go
sorry, I
ahead.
was going to say, well, how do you, you're now in a new country. So how do you start to rebuild that um
From
get
scratch,
from
from
well,
ground zero. It was tough. I mean, not knowing anyone, you have no network.
yeah.
And I knew beforehand that LinkedIn was very popular in the States. People do look for hirees or hirers were seeking people just by LinkedIn. So I start from there and then get my Vimeo up looking good. And that's actually was a good move for my part because people started to hire me and from a what how do you call it, a recruitment company called Creative Circle. I started from there as well, because if you go straight to the door by yourself, you're gonna get ignored.
Yeah.
As I'm sure competitive level for freelancers in New York is like way up there. There's
Yeah.
gonna be like hundreds and tons of emails they have to sift through, and how are you gonna stand out
Hmm.
was another issue.
So
So
they saw your reel on Vimeo and you got brought into that sort
I
of
well, I
headhunter.
got that going, looking as got it look as colorful as I could, making sure I got a variety of things in my pocket. Oh, I wanted to add, before I even went to Creative Circle to look for jobs, through I actually did some pro bono work looking at Kickstarter, and I met two women that's doing an animation short from LA. They started a company called Traceback Studios, and I did 3D compositing for them, just to get a sense of
Hmm.
how it works in America. Even our frame rate in the whole world is 2997, but in America it's 2398. Even that was different. It was a great experience.
Hmm.
Um, how else should I go?
Well, I saw that you've done some work for HBO. So how did you make that transition from the Kickstarter projects to HBO?
After freelancing with a couple of companies, HBO was, I would say, luck, because it was the right time. Someone was actually planning on leaving HBO. There was a job opening, and they had a couple of emergency jobs, like last minute overnighters, and they were looking frantically for um, compositor slash motion graphics artists to actually paint out some baller promos. Ballers is the Rock series. I haven't even
Yes.
watched it myself,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I
Not a
thought for
fan
a
of
second
sports.
there you said the Rock series. I was like rock and roll, but then I was like, oh no, no, you mean
Dwayne Johnson,
Dwayne
yeah.
Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, the Ballers. They had
Yeah.
like deadline in a few days, and you got to paint some stuff out, like NFL branding, because they don't not allowed to show those on air,
Yeah.
apparently.
Well, I wonder if since he's got the XFL, if he'll somehow integrate that into the show now.
But at that time also, there wasn't many people that could pull in, I guess, quick turnarounds. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why, but I got lucky. Someone was leaving. I was competing against two other freelancers at that time, and I got lucky and I got hired.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is some of the like what are the tools you're using now? Because you were talking about flame and smoke, and I remember combustion was around back
Yeah,
in the early
actually, I
2000s.
tried a little bit of combustion. That was
Yeah.
fun. I'm
So
not
what?
much, sorry, I'm not so much of a node-based artist yet. I'm trying to transition from Adobe softwares to Nuke.
Yeah.
That's my next level goal. I hear a lot of companies are using Nuke now. That's the reason why. But hands down, I think there's still a future with Adobe After Effects, as Boris FX is doing a lot of new plugins to accommodate and improve compositing for After Effects users.
Yeah.
So I've been stuck with that for a while. And even the work I'm doing with HBO is full on Adobe.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Are you so I don't know where maybe I think you might have emailed me this, but did you do work at ILM as well?
No,
No, it
no,
wasn't ILM.
no,
No.
it wasn't ILM, but I did some freelance for AKNYC. They're a Broadway agency in New York. They do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They did Matilda, even Harry Potter. they did quite a couple of big names. Next was the next big one was Al Jazeera America before they
Mhm.
died. I was,
Collapsed, yeah.
yeah, that was very interesting. I just started with them for 4 months, and the first meeting I attended, the
Yeah.
full staff meeting, I saw people were leaving the meeting crying, and I was like, why are people so sad in this meeting? And it just turned out that they announced their closure.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Wow. So what would you say is the most challenging thing from in like the 3D world or in the VFX world for you right now in terms of from a creative perspective?
Challenging is to juggle between work. You're doing a lot of high end, high quality, high demanding projects. And at the same time, there's so many tutorials that's churning out every day. There's a lot of skills you gotta keep up with. So the biggest challenge is trying to be a hybrid, I would say.
Mm,
You can't just be an animator anymore. You can't be too niche. You have to be like a somehow jack of all trades. You got to know a bit of edit. You got to know a bit of how to do audio. You got to know a lot of things in order to survive these days. And I fear the fresh graduates are gonna like have a hell of a time trying to keep up.
yeah. Well, what have you done over the during COVID? Did you like what happened within your industry? Were you able to work from home or?
Oh, we didn't miss a beat actually. We were anticipating this work from home situation. So they were engineers were already testing working offsite. So once that happened, we were told to just take our laptops home, and we started setting up our own computers, and was able to somehow tap into the machines at the office on site. We're off site, but you tap into the machines on site.
Mm.
We didn't
And
miss a
so
beat actually.
that's interesting. So are you actually you're actually working on the software at the office but
Yes,
from home?
yes.
Oh, that's interesting. What software are you using for that?
Oh, we have this little device called the 10 Zig,
10 Zig. Interesting.
10ZIG.
Yeah.
It's a device where you put some cables and it routes from the internet and into our machines at the office.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there is no like external CPU. I just have
Wow.
monitors, keyboard, and that little device called the 10Zig. I can show you, but I can't show you while I'm working on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
I can show you a little. That
Oh,
thing,
wow.
just that little thing that looks like a router.
Wow.
Yeah,
And are you able
it's
to talk?
cool. It's
Yeah.
super fast. It doesn't feel like anything lags at all.
Wow. Are you able to talk about what you're working on right now?
No. Unfortunately, no.
Yeah,
You
of
saw a
course.
little picture, but I don't think you could tell what show it was.
Yeah. No, I was wondering if you're able to.
I
Uh,
I can next year.
next year.
Yeah, next year. It's
Wow.
gonna be on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. Have
Okay.
you found like in terms I mean obviously the HBO to HBO Max probably doesn't have a difference, but have you seen with the streaming channels any major differences in workflow?
Mm, volume wise, um, it's like 200% more
Really?
volume wise
Why is
because
that?
we just Warner Media just got bought over by AT&T, and they demand like 60% more content.
Wow.
But at the same time, you just saw news recently of cutbacks and a lot of people getting laid off.
Yeah.
So staff is getting shorthanded, but demand is still up there.
Yeah.
Starting to feel like Malaysia at the moment, I must say.
Wow.
Starting to feel like a sweatshop, yeah.
Wow. Well, how do you tackle that? Because that's one thing I've heard from a lot of VFX artists, and that is that there's this constant pressure to work around the clock and get things done, but there doesn't seem to be, like, for your own mental well-being, like, how do you tackle that and make sure you
Oh,
stay safe?
I just recently gave birth and I'm a mom too. So there's like two
Congratulations.
bosses.
Yeah.
One mini boss and one big boss.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Well,
Oh,
congratulations on that.
thank
That's
you,
really
thank
exciting.
you. How do I cope? You After 20 years of doing this, you tend to get numb and you tend to get thicker skin, and you know how to juggle your time balance, work balance,
Yeah.
life balance. You tend to get that after 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about how the new generation is going to cope with that. They may complain a lot in the beginning, but looking at how we're in now, the situation of the COVID, the pandemic, you have to count your blessings that you still have a job. So that one you can just sip.
Wow. Um, so there's is there an area that you want to, because you were saying you want to learn new, so where is it that you want to evolve into as a creative? Is there a particular area in the VFX industry you want to work in?
I want to be a really, really strong compositor. I started off as a designer
Yeah.
and I've done promos, I've done commercials, I learned how to trim particles. I think the next level would be creating something realistic and believable.
Hmm.
There's a there's not many, I would say, that's really professional in this field yet. So you could still be high demand in terms of um, creating lifelike, realistic, good layout, I would say.
Okay.
Mm,
Now,
yeah.
I have one last question that I like to ask everyone I interview, and that is, what would you say? Well, I guess we'll phrase it like this: the pandemic's occurred.
Yes.
What would you suggest people watch on Netflix or HBO Max, or something that you saw and you were like, oh, that was really good?
I'm currently really into Lovecraft Country.
Oh yeah.
I was watching The Boys as well on Amazon, and I watched a bit of Enola Holmes on Netflix. I watch a bit of everything. I wouldn't say there's a favorite, but VFX wise, I'm looking forward to his Dark Materials because the
Mhm.
CG there is spectacular. It looks really good. You gotta you can't choose. I, of course, biasly I'm HBO, so I would say watch HBO Max, but you gotta keep your scope wide.
Yeah.
You gotta keep learning from everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know who's your next boss anyway, so you gotta know these things.
Well,
His Dark Materials would be something I say watch out for.
okay. Well, thank you so much for letting us interview.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and congratulations on your baby.
Thank you. He went out for a walk just to keep this interview quiet. Yes,
Wait, how old is he now?
he's 4 months.
Oh
Not
wow.
walking yet,
Yeah, I
so
was gonna say I was.
it's still tolerable. So I could still juggle between work and keeping him in at bay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for everything,
Thank you.
and have a
All the
good
best
day.
for you guys too.
Thank you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Thanks.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.